Alright, so I want to bring you guys the sane asylums and show you guys the craziness of all of this in the matrix, the keys, and how you guys can start figuring it out in your area. And that's the thing, is that our United States history is so it's not very clear. I mean, we have obviously major events, but for the most part, the rest of the history is really just we went from cowboys to these modern cities in just overnight. And this has to tie into the Great Reset and knowing that there's no way that they could have built this stuff. And I'm going to show you guys like the tools and stuff when you're looking at this to really understand it. Okay, so in February 8th, 1879, the state of Colorado enacted legislation to establish the state's first public mental hospital. The Colorado Sane Asylum, now named the Colorado Mental Health Institute of Pueblo. The first 11 patients were admitted in October 1879 to a temporary hospital located in the existing building near Pueblo, Colorado. The permanent hospital building opened on November 20th, 1883. P.R. Toombs was the medical superintendent of the hospital for the first 20 years. Okay, so now I'm going to take you guys to another article that I have that says something completely different. Let's see, where's it at? Uh, okay, so this one right here. The Colorado Mental Health Institute at Pueblo opened the Colorado State Insane Asylum in October 23, 1879 on 40 acres of land in northwest Pueblo. Donated by George M. See, and this is the other one. Chilcott is these people, like all of this land and stuff that was donated and given to all of this. Where did they get all the money? Where did they have all this extra capital? I mean, where did all of this money influx come into the United States? Yes, I know Colorado grew by mining. And one of the things is that it takes a long time to put up track to the mines, to dig in the mines by hand and dynamite, and to pack all that out by mule until you could actually develop some kind of trail or road or train that would carry the massive amounts of material you would need to have to really start profiting from it to be a successful company. And so this is one of the things. It says that it was established in 1879 and opened in 1879. So that's one of the loopholes that I find, and there's more. Like, you can go into different ones. I found where the female ward was built in 1888. Okay, so enough with the reading. Let's go into some of the why I'm bringing all this up. And what I want you guys to know is I have all of this PDF files, everything that I found in Pueblo to make all of it. I've put it in my drive so that way everyone can have access to it and actually start doing their research here or do it somewhere else. Do it in Seattle. I have a lot of stuff on Seattle that doesn't add up either, especially with the mud flood. And then you go look at the Chicago fire of 1871 and you look at that, and then you look at the before and after pictures and you realize that there's so much stone buildings that they built. There's also the picture of before the San Francisco earthquake, and it shows San Francisco actually empty. A big panoramic view of that. And I don't know if they really didn't think that we would catch on to it, but when they said these people are stupid, they're stupid. I when I figured this out, I was like, I'm not here for the fame. I'm here to give the tools to give people, the tools to have them look it up and see. So let's take a look at some more of these pictures that they had in the sane asylum, and I'll go through them. Record buildings. Alright, so let's go to this one. So this was supposed to be the administration building, built like a cathedral. And you have to understand the grand scale of what it actually takes to make stone buildings this beautiful. Think about the prints and the layout. Now, these masons had to be tremendously skilled at what they were doing in order to lay this building outright by stone. And so you can imagine the laydown area that they had and the coordination that it took to actually build all this in record time by migrants from all over the world working together harmoniously to build this. I mean, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm like, this is the most absurd story that you could find. And so here's a backside picture of it, and you could see the bell-shaped domes. I mean, this is quality construction. And here's the thing, guys. All of these buildings that we have that were built during this time period are landmarks, historical buildings. Why? Because they were built so well. So how did they build buildings so well where we can't build anything close to this? And definitely we do not build stuff to last a long time. We build buildings to last about 40 to 50 years, and then they're torn down because the maintenance, the fixing of it is just, the cost is so much because it was never part of that. It's like having a vehicle that's not serviceable anymore because it's so worn out, and that's what they do. The construction nowadays is absolutely, it's pathetic. And I'll tell you right now, there's such a lack of skilled trades. That's why skilled trades is going up, and that's why they'll always have jobs, is because they know they will always have jobs. And so when you look at these grand buildings that they built, and here you could see the backside of that where we're looking at from over the trees. And this is just one of the many that I showed you guys. And then I'll show you what they built after this, the 1940 buildings. There's another picture of it. And in this picture you can see two buildings, or one giant one. The trees kind of cover it up. But in here you could see one building right here, and then another one on the backside over here. And so I was looking at these pictures and I realized what was actually the bullshit story that they were trying to tell me, that basically within 20 years they built all of this in the middle of the Colorado desert. Now these are the buildings they built after they tore those down, and I believe that these were built in between the 40s and 60s. And this is what I'm talking about. They built castles first out of the gate, spent all this money, time for all this magnificent stone, tear them down, and then build these brick buildings right after it. And you're not even talking 50 years. I mean, that's the scope of this. You have to understand, like, time, like how long it would actually take you to build something like this, and that's what nobody's getting. And to build it not only in one spot but all over the United States. Our architect is the same. When you start going through your history and you start looking at where you grew up, because you're going to know what you're looking for. And if you paid attention like I did, I always just observed, and I was like, how did that come to be? And I'm going to go over CF9 and the smelting and Mineral Palace, and the largest brick plant in the United States was in Pueblo, Colorado. I'm going to go over all of that because there's so much information to cover in this one short period of time, yet so much explosion of growth and quality of building happened in record time with no construction power tools, no heavy machinery to move anything. These guys had block and tackle, horse and wagon, and hammer. That was it. So how did they build all of this? And here's that picture I was showing you earlier of how big and massive this really is. And to see how much they added onto it. Plus all of these buildings. And I got another picture that shows those too. Alright, so I want you guys to focus in on these buildings right here, and I'm going to show you how well these were built as well. Like I said, this is one giant puzzle, and like all of these buildings just magically just came out of nowhere. Grand, magnificent buildings, and yet if they were still standing today, would be national landmarks. But that's how they were able to hide history, is they destroyed so much of this. And so let's I'll take you guys there real quick. Okay, so these are in 1904, and they were demolished in 1965. And so these magnificent stone structures, and that's the other thing is take a look at the photograph. Look at how neat everything is. Look at how clean the building is. I mean, these are like magnificent stone structures, and yet for whatever reason, we've torn them down for progress. Alright, so then one of the keys I was able to figure out on this was this map, or this map led me to a lot of stuff, and these led me to a lot of stuff. These Sunborn maps are like gold tickets. They give you the year that actually what they stamped on it, and that's the other thing. I have questions about all of these. When I started really looking through these, I noticed that these were split up, And Pueblo, how it became a town with so many people is it incorporated all the other towns next to it, like Bessemer. It included that, in South Denver or South Pueblo. They included all of that. And so you have to really like see, and this one is of 1905, the crazy construction, all of these massive buildings. And I showed you what these look like. Stone structures, because they built with the same materials that they built the other with. Yet we can't build it today. So my Google Drive you can go into and you can look at these Sunborn maps where I have them all. I've gotten as many as I can from all the different websites that I could find them on, and actually copy them. So it was really weird when I was doing a lot of this research how stuff would kind of change, and I would have to go back and kind of redig through it again to kind of put it back into place. So CF&I, I'll cover that one, and the smelting plants is another one. I mean, you have these grand, magnificent buildings, and I'll show CF&I where they actually you can see where they added to all of this, and I'll go through that in CF&I. And like I said, you can go into any one of these and look to see what I've collected. And you can start looking for your own history. And how I was able to pull some of these up was, let's see if I can find one. Didn't transfer through. But like I said, when I was going through this, like even Seattle was weird. I was noticing like there's no way they could have built this city in this record amount of time. And this is why I want to show you this. Is because you don't build one right after another. I mean, you have to build one, and then you can't have material laying all over the place in order to build a city this massive in the middle of the night. And that's what nobody's comprehending. We've been here longer. How they've gotten away with it, I don't know, but I'm almost betting that has something to do with the covering of the eye, the Illuminati, because Freemason, now you're starting to understand, this is the women's ward for the Sane Asylum that was built in 88. And look at the grand scale of the building, and it's built out of stone or brick. And so these were those, once again, you can't make this up, how well these buildings were built and yet demolished in a record time. And so this is actually the Sane Asylum that they tore the other ones down, and then they built these, and then these, I don't know, I believe that these are torn down now too. But that's just it. You have to think about that. I mean, they built these simple. Why did they build castles in the last ones, or the first ones? When you have basically migrants from all over the world trying to establish themselves, and yet there was this massive coordination that they were able to lay out the city magically, and they were magically able to put all this together in record time. And then at the steel mill, if you watch the PBS special on the flood of 1921, they tell you that there were over 40 different languages spoken at the mill alone. They had over 2 dozen newspapers in foreign language. Think about that. I mean, that is, you have to be, when you put the puzzle together, you have to really look at this and go, there's no way. I mean, how did they coordinate that? I've worked on job sites with other guys that are different languages, and it's brutal trying to talk to them sometimes. And I'm nothing against them. I mean, I'm sure it's the same for them, because you can't communicate. Yet you're telling me migrants from all over the world descended on Pueblo, Denver, Colorado Springs, Trinidad, built all the cities pretty much the same layouts to a sense in record time, and here we are today. So, like I said, if you watch the PBS special, it'll go through this, and I'll go through CF&I. But I mean, this is something I never thought I was going to do, but I just, when I seen it, I'm like, there's no way, and I have to, it's one of those things, share with the world and see what I was hoping somebody would pick up on Denver and Colorado Springs and start tearing into that, or their cities, and start tearing it apart with all the logging and everything that's up in Oregon and Washington. All of those factories are gone, just like the factories that were here are gone. This is kind of the John Galt story in America, where they went through and they just cut America up and sold it to the highest bidder. And that's where we're at. And that's what you need to put together in this puzzle, is that there's so much to this. It's bigger than what you think. And we'll see what happens with it.